morning, leaders. Good morning. I am proud to be here, and I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to be in your presence this morning. And I'd like to thank Dr. Lee and Dr. White for inviting me to be here to share with you basically to talk with you about the social injustice in the criminal. I know you had the word justice system, but I like to refer to it as the legal system because, and I will get to that and explain it to you later. But right now, I am in the process of maybe filming my podcast, so I'm gonna have to do a little intro to that before I get started. And it's just thank you all for joining us in our remote version of the podcast, taping right here in Tigerland, Grambling State University here. Our topic for today is social injustice in the criminal legal system. And not only do I like to make discussions, but I want to be about the discussions, because normally the discussions that we do when I have my purpose of my podcast is to encourage people to have a call to action. So we be about what we discuss. We just don't get out there and talk, because you can talk all day. Now, we're going to be discussing a topic, the social injustice in the criminal legal system, because that's a topic that we will never, ever stop discussing until we continue the fight to bring about change of revamping this legal system or reforming this legal system. But I want you to just come with me and imagine yourself traveling, whether you're going to church or you are going to the store. You're minding your own business when suddenly you're stopped by the police. Now, in your haste to go wherever you're going, you forget your driver's license. You leave them in the other purse, or you left them at home, or wherever. But anyway, the police stop you because the police says that you ran a red light or you did some type of minor traffic infraction. But nevertheless, you search your purse, you don't have your license. Now, what happens? He places you under arrest, and now you find yourself embroiled or embedded into this legal system. Because now, after you've been arrested, what do we do next? You have to bail out. And if you don't have the bail money to bail out, guess what? You're going to sit in jail until you go before the judge to have a bail hearing, and therefore, you're going to lose your job, or you might get behind in your studies. So right then and there, that's the social injustice and problems with the system, because you know that if other people get stopped, they're going to get a citation. But when we get stopped, we get arrested. There lies the difference in the system. So I want you to know that this has been going on, and what I call been going on since the slave patrol days, since slavery, because the system is really designed to do just what it's designed to do, and that is to keep black people criminalized in the legal system because of any small amount, regardless of what the trouble is. It can be a low-level offense or whatever, but the system is designed to keep us embroiled and throttled into that system, and it's up to us to do something about it. Everybody in here can do something. And so as I go, we already know that the police patrols black neighborhoods more than white neighborhoods. We already know that prosecutors indict more black people than other people. We already know that jurors is going to find black people more guilty or guiltier more than other people. And we already know that judges are going to impose longer sentences on black people. So what do we do about that? What do we do about this system that's called the justice system? Well, I would tell you the word justice is only good as the people that you put in office. Because in order to change this system, you have to change the type of person that you put in office, or know the type of person that you put in office. And I said that's very important, because that's where your vote comes in. Because it's important for you to vote the right person in that's going to share your views and that's going to be about change, because we have to put in people that are forward-thinking people that's going to want to change this system. But we see in this country now, it seems like every time we make 2 steps forward, we take a step back, because you still have those thinking thinking people that try to hold us back into an unjust system. We see that right now in Florida. What affects Florida affects us. You see them trying to erase Black history. You can never erase us. We are unerasable. You can never erase us. But once you allow that particular spirit to fester, you're going to have it here in Louisiana. And I saw it last week with our Attorney General, who's already trying to ban books in public libraries here. That's why it's up to us. It's up to you leaders. It's up to you to put a stop to what's going on in this country. We are here not to just talk about things, but we're here to be about it, to have a call to action, to try to rectify the wrongs that this system is perpetuating and perpetrating on Black people. And I say that because I'm going to go back to the example that I gave earlier about you driving, and God forbid if you have some marijuana crumbs, and you know what marijuana crumbs are, little leaflets or whatever. I might not be saying it right. But God forbid if you have that on your console, because they have laws. You know, Louisiana, marijuana is still criminalized. You can get up to 30 years with a $50,000 fine for possession and intent to distribute. Now, the callous in this whole thing is that if the police smells marijuana in your vehicle, you can get arrested for driving while they assume that you've been smoking marijuana. And you know who that affects, because when other people have drug problems, what do? They send them to rehab. When we have drug problems, they send us to prison. So you have this mass incarceration rate over simple, low-level offenses that ought not to happen, and it's up to you, the leaders, to make sure that you put the right people in office that's going to share your views. You need to make sure that you want to serve on the jury, because the jury are picked from the voters' registration roll. So there is a system designed. Other people love to sit on jury duties. I don't know why we don't, but I encourage you to make sure that you sit on jury duties, because you're going to help determine whether or not that person that's sitting there could be really honest, innocent, and people thinking that that person is guilty. It could be up to you to make the decision whether or not that person is going to serve or be wrongfully placed in prison. If you just hold out, it only takes one person to hold out, to declare a mistrial. If you just hold on to what you believe and that this person has not committed a crime, if you just hold on to that thought and don't allow other people to persuade you and say, oh, is the judge going to keep us here for another week? You're going to miss your movies. You're going to miss doing whatever you do. That becomes not important when you're serving on a jury. So those are the type of things that keeps the injustice perpetuated and perpetrated on us when we don't want to do what we're supposed to do in order to change the system. That's why I know the leaders in here are going to do something. Everybody can do something. We can do something to bring about a change and revamp this system. Because let me tell you, I was watching TV last week. You're not going to believe this. This man beat up his girlfriend. He shot 4 dogs. He beat up the brother to the girlfriend, and he killed the cat. Okay? And he burned the house down. Now, this is a true story out of Livingston, Louisiana. You can look it up. You can Google it. You can look it up. Okay, he has a gun. The police goes out there, and he's armed. The police takes his gun out, and what does he do? He doesn't shoot him and kill him like they do us. He says, let us reason, let us negotiate. Where is the justice in that? Okay? Those are the type of things that you as leaders can bring about involved in the criminal justice system. Because we need you. We need you out here. We can only do it for so long, and we need to pass the baton on to great leaders. And I would like the HBCUs to lead the charge on this person, Ron DeSantis, down in Florida, because what affects Florida affects all of us. And like I said, last week, the Attorney General, Jeff Landry decided he was going to start banning books, but he's pretending like he's trying to protect the rights of children, but the books that he's banning are books that are written by African American authors and stories about African American authors. It's the same thing that's going on down in Florida. And I would like the HBCUs to lead the charge and get other schools involved, but lead the charge in this effort to make sure that our system is not infected with trying to erase us as a people. And if they got problems with what happened with their ancestors, that's their problem. They'll get over it. But we should never allow anybody else to tell our narrative. We should always be vigilant and be about the narrative of black folks because we built this country. And unfortunately, this system was built in order for us to stay in shape. But we don't have to continue to be battered down or be a slave to this system. We can do something about it. And that's where the George Floyd Justice Policing Act comes in. I was on the George Floyd legal team. And so yes, I'm an advocate for the change and the reform of the legal system and trying to bring about change in the system, holding police officers accountable, transparency, because the stories go on and they go on. I have a situation where I'm handling now where a young man and his 3-year-old were headed to buy dog food from this Tractor Supply house. And he accidentally hit a mailbox. Police called, the person called the police came out. The young man said, well, you know, since I have my 3-year-old, you just take me home so I can leave my baby with my mom. You know, they about to arrest him for hitting the mailboxes. They claimed that they found some outstanding warrants for him. So now he's about to be arrested. They take him home. He decides he wants to run. He runs in the woods because woods are in the back of their house, and we know how this story ends. They kill him. Running from the police should never be a death sentence. So that's why it's important for us to make a change with this criminal justice system. Now, the title of this speech says, "Hands up, don't shoot." We know that was the mantra cry from down in Ferguson during the Michael Brown's case because witnesses said that Michael Brown's hands were up and the police killed him anyway. But I just wanted to show you the difference between how the system railroads us as opposed to other people, how the system tries to act fair with other people, but it's always trying to be unfair and unjustified in what we do. And like I said, I can never stop saying, you are the leaders, you need to be about it. Just don't listen to me. You have social media now, you need to be about, if you get on social media, take it to the streets because that's what we always do, and that's what I'm used to doing, is protesting in the streets, but do it peacefully. But we need you, and we need you to get out there because, let me tell you, with these police brutality cases, we want to make sure that they are held accountable and that transparency rules. Now, the only time that we got a chance to see how the system works and where we can truly say that this is a justice system, unfortunately, was down in Memphis last month with the Tyree Nichols case. You saw a system that worked, and it worked because on January the 7th, when Mr. Nichols got stopped and was beat up and pretty much died 3 days later, we saw the police take action 9 days later. We saw the Justice Department get involved 13 days later. We saw a district attorney that came in and indicted those police officers pretty much, 28 or 29 days later. You never see the system work like that in our favor. But then again, I have a question about that because we're dealing with 5 officers. If we had 5 white officers, it would never work it would never be about that fast. So I had mixed feelings about that Because on one hand, we see the system working the way it's supposed to work. And yes, it should be a blueprint as to how these cases are supposed to operate. But unfortunately, it's not. But when you have black officers, see, we still see an element of racism and bias and social injustice, even with the police officers. So we see the disparities right there again. So, but you did see a system that's supposed to work. Now, the system normally works when it involves us and white officers. We have to fight to get a video. We may get a video 5 or 6 months later. And guess what? The video more than likely has been altered or changed. Now, going back to the case that I told you about the young man running in the woods, the police officers have body cams. But guess what? They were conveniently not on. It is those type of things that we have to fight for in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, is to make it a national law where body cams are to be worn by police officers and not to be taken off. And if they are taken off, then they must be held liable or suffer the consequences for their actions. Because one thing we want to do is to hold them accountable, and that should never be a problem, because if you're doing with the right thing, why wouldn't you want to see or want the world to see you doing the right thing? But we know that they're going to do the wrong thing because it's embedded and ingrained in their system that when they get around us or when they're trying to arrest us, it's embedded in their system that they must do harm to us. And the only way we're going to change that system, like I said, is to put the right people in office, because I always said justice is only good as the people that you put in office. So remember that. Remember who you have as your sheriff, as your mayor, as your DA, because there are like 5 components to this justice system. It starts off with the police, then you have the DA, then you have the juries, then you have the judges, and one more component that we never ever think about, we have the coroner. I have had cases where the coroner has come back and lied after a police has definitely beat somebody, and the coroner will say he doesn't see any injuries on that person, or they try to attribute the injuries to something that has nothing to do with the police killing this person. So you have to watch out for the coroners. Not all coroners, but there are some police-oriented coroners that you do have to watch out for, and that's real. We saw that if you followed the George Floyd case, we saw the coroner to actually examine his body, get on the stand, and basically fabricate about what happened. They always attribute things to drugs. But if that person was doing well before the police got them and they were on drugs, then why are they dead now? The drugs obviously didn't kill them. So we must be vigilant, and this is a call to action because you are leaders, every one of you in here, and I'm just so proud to be amongst you. And I hope that you will participate in contacting your congresspeople, your senators, and ask them to go ahead and sign into law the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, or any other acts or anything that affects you all. You all probably will need to start calling the senators and your reps in Louisiana as it relates to what Jeff Landry is trying to do, because you do have some legislators that's trying to put some legislation together in order to support what he's doing by banning books that are written by African American authors and books about us. So like I said, that demonic spirit that took place down in Florida has come right here smack dab in the middle in your yard. And we need to handle up on it, because I am about taking care of business and not just discussing it. And I thank you all for your time and attention. And if anybody have any questions, I am willing to answer. Oh, you have a question?
Yes, can you elaborate on the George Floyd Act for us, please?
Okay, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is a bill we are pushing to reform police officers and how they conduct themselves. That's the best way I'm gonna put it to you. And in that bill, they have to get rid of the no knock warrants. We know about that from who? Breonna Taylor, right. They want to also make it mandatory that nationally, that every police office or department in the country have body cams, and that they keep those body cams on, because we know that videos tell the story. Because we can look at videos, and then when you show a white jury, they don't see what we see, okay? They don't want to see what we see because it's embedded in their mind of how we supposed to act. So the George Floyd Justice Act, and also in that bill, it's supposed to have in there a time period for the release of those videos, not to hold a video whole year so that you can alter or do whatever you want to do with it. It also addresses qualified immunity, which is the civil side, which protects police officers from being sued civilly. And it basically pretty much rubber stamps or bless their bad conduct. They want to try to, and that's the holdup from my understanding. The House has already passed the bill. We're talking about a Senate now who's fighting because they don't want to give up qualified immunity. They don't want to even alter qualified immunity. And I would tell you, I had a case that I took to the United States Supreme Court on qualified immunity, and I won it because it was a situation where a young man is minding his own business in Winfield, Louisiana. Police stopped him and said, "Scooter, I want to talk to you." He said, I don't want to talk to you. And that's your right. If you're not doing nothing wrong, you don't have to talk to him. You know, so he went on about his business, but then we know what happened next. He took out running, and the chase was on. And when they caught up with him, they tasered him 9 times with 50,000 volts of electricity, because I don't know if you know, the taser has 2 different modes. You have a drive stun where you touch people with it, and you have the probes, where I call the fish hooks, that shoots out, which gives more electricity out than supposedly the drive stun. But that depends on how old the tasers are. But back then, the tasers were relatively new, and the police officer said, well, I didn't know that the taser was going to kill him. But if you taser someone 9 times and you taser them in the chest above the heart, what do you expect? And you're sitting 50,000 volts of electricity. You have just electrocuted this man. And by the grace of God, I had a coroner who put on the death certificate that he was electrocuted. Now, I had another coroner that lied and said that the police did nothing wrong. And then I had another coroner who said, I don't want to get involved, because he knew what the police had done was wrong, but he did not want to get involved in it. And so he referred it out to a coroner who decided he was going to do the right thing. Okay, Taser International, they send their people down because they don't want you to say anything bad about tasers. If you see anything good about a taser on the internet, know that that's Taser International propaganda out there, because those things do kill. Because electricity, just like anything, is not compartmentalized. It has to send a wave to your brain to know that that you've been shot. So you know it affects other parts of your body because it's running through your body. But anyway, in that case, they had killed Scooter. And qualified immunity, I actually won in the district. This was in federal court, because I do a lot of federal court cases. Because you have the state court and then you have the federal court. I do a lot of the civil rights cases in the federal court. In this particular case, I won on the district level. The police officer appealed it to the 5th Circuit Court of Appeal, which is comprised of Louisiana and Texas, and by the way, it's the most conservative court in the country. So you know how that was going. So they reversed my ruling, okay? They reversed my ruling, and let me tell you, it was just only by the grace of God, but let me tell you what the police did. They filmed Scooter sitting in the police station, shackled up, falling over, pleading to take him to the hospital. And he said, I'm dying, take me to the hospital, because they've shocked him 9 times at this point. He starts foaming at the mouth. They won't take him to the hospital. They start accusing him of taking PCP and drugs, because that's the battle cry for when they're trying to justify their bad actions. So they start saying, oh, you took PCP, you admit you took PCP, and Scooter is falling over and saying, please take me to the hospital. And he said, God's gonna get you for killing me. That's on video. Okay, so now I'm in court. Judge don't want to see the video, okay? Why not? So they end up ruling and reversing in favor of the police. And like I said, by the grace of God, I managed to get a hold of a law firm out of New York, which was, unbelievable, because I ended up on Labor Day when no one is at work talking to a partner. Now, this law firm has offices all over the world. And the partner said, I don't even know why I answered the phone. And I said, I'm glad that you are. So when I started telling him about the case, he couldn't believe it. So he pulled it up on the internet because it was a high-profile case. He pulled it up on the internet and he said, this is unbelievable. He said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I got a partner that would be interested in helping you, because I can't help you because I don't do these type of cases. Well, true to form, the partner called me back and they said, you know what? We will help you. We will help you take this to the United States Supreme Court. And I said, okay, well, how much you gonna charge? Because I'm dealing with a law firm that charged $2,500 an hour, okay? I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna pull that off? And what this guy said, he said, you know what? If we win, you're gonna pay me. If we lose, you don't have to pay nothing. And I said, I'm going for that, thank God. But that was God's hooking me up with the right people at the right time, to not let this boy's life be in vain, because he had already told the police officers, God gonna get you for killing me. And that stayed on my heart. We went to the United States Supreme Court and we won. It got reversed. So we know that you all, if I can do it, you can do it. And so I charge you all to be about it, and not just discuss it, and not just get on Facebook, Instagram, or wherever the social media is and discuss it and not do anything about it, because you have the resources right at your fingertips. You have the resources to make a difference. And there's no one in this room that should not be able to make a difference, regardless. Because sometimes it only takes one crying in the wilderness to make a difference. And once one cries in the wilderness, other people are going to come along and cry with you when you're doing the right thing. So I didn't mean to go off on that. Go ahead.
Do your law firm have any internship opportunities?
Oh, it does. I'll get your information when I come down. Are you interested? Okay, good. Good. See, I knew there was a reason coming here.